I stared at it until the letters stopped swimming. Behind me, 1,000 anxious law graduates rustled plastic water bottles, whispered last-minute rules of evidence, prayed into their sleeves, and tried not to look terrified. The air smelled like printer ink, raincoats, and the metallic breath of panic. It was the exact morning everything had been taken from me. In my first life, I had given up that seat. Not because I was kind. Kindness is too clean a word for what happened. I gave it up because my stepmother cried in the women's bathroom until her mascara ran into black rivers. Because my father gripped my wrist hard enough to leave half-moons on my skin and told me family sacrifice was the only proof of gratitude. Because my younger stepsister, Celine, stood in front of the mirror in my blazer, wearing my pearl earrings, holding my admission ticket like it had always belonged to her, and said, "You're smarter than me, Mara.
You can take it next time.
I only need one chance." One chance. That was what she called my entire future. I was 24, exhausted from 2 jobs and 3 years of law school, and stupid enough to believe that if I gave them this one impossible thing, they would finally stop asking. I let Celine walk into Hall C with my card. I waited in a coffee shop across the street, shaking so badly I spilled tea down my blouse. I told myself she would fail. I told myself the examiners would catch the photograph mismatch. I told myself no one could steal a professional license in a building full of lawyers. I was wrong in every direction. Celine did not fail. She passed with the score I should have earned. My father threw a dinner and called her the pride of the family. My stepmother hung the framed results in our front hallway. Celine became an associate at the firm that had once promised to interview me. When I tried to retake the exam, my application was flagged. When I confessed, they called me unstable. When the board investigated, every document had my signature, every fingerprint was mine because I had handled the forms, and the only witness who could save me was the thief herself. Celine testified in a pale blue suit with trembling lips and perfect tears. "My sister has always resented me," she said. "I think she wanted my success to look illegitimate because she couldn't bear her own failure." My father looked away. My stepmother squeezed Celine's shoulder. The disciplinary panel revoked my eligibility for 10 years. Then the firm I worked at as a clerk fired me for reputational risk. Then a client file went missing, conveniently found in my locker, and Celine's mentor suggested criminal charges. I lost my apartment. My friends stopped answering. By 27, I was living above a dry cleaner, writing legal forms for cash under someone else's name, watching Celine smile from Bar Association newsletters. At 31, I died in a courthouse stairwell during a storm, clutching a motion I was not allowed to file. My last thought was not noble. It was not forgiveness. It was, if the world gave me 1 hour, I would make them touch the evidence with their own hands. Then thunder cracked. And now I was back, 7 years earlier, standing outside Hall C with my admission card under my fingers and Celine's voice sliding toward me through the crowd. "Mara, oh, thank God, there you are." I turned. She was exactly as she had been that day, which meant she looked like innocence wearing expensive perfume. Soft brown curls pinned back with a silver clip. Huge wet eyes. A cream cardigan she had probably chosen because it made invigilators think of schoolgirls and sick kittens. She clutched a folder to her chest, and behind her came my stepmother, Vera, already crying on command. My father followed 2 steps behind, jaw tight, phone in hand, the family executioner dressed as a concerned parent. For one absurd second, I wanted to laugh. They had no idea they were walking into a life where I remembered all their lines. Vera reached me first. "Mara, sweetheart, don't be angry." There it was, the opening move. In my first life, I had said, "What happened?" This time I only blinked slow and blank. Celine's mouth trembled. "My admission packet is wrong. They put me in the afternoon session, but my confirmation email said morning. I called, and they said there's nothing they can do. Mara, I'll lose my clerkship if I don't sit today."
Lie.
Her clerkship offer had a 6-month deferral clause. I knew because, in my first life, I had found the email while searching for proof. She had never needed my seat. She only wanted my score. My father stepped close enough for me to smell mint and coffee. You can defer. You're young. Celine has more at stake right now. Another line, delivered word for word. The old Mara would have defended herself. She would have explained her scholarship, her interview, her rent, her future. She would have begged them to see that her life mattered too. I had already learned what begging bought from people who measured love in useful sacrifices. So I smiled. Not brightly. Not enough to scare them. Just a small, tired smile, the kind a cornered daughter gives when she is about to surrender. Okay, I said. Celine froze. Vera's crying stopped so fast it was almost funny. My father narrowed his eyes. Okay. I picked up my exam card and held it out between two fingers. If Celine needs it that badly, she can take my seat. For one heartbeat, all three of them looked disappointed. They had wanted a fight. A fight would let them become victims. A fight would let Celine sob loudly enough to attract sympathy. A fight would give my father a reason to drag me into the hallway and break me privately. Instead, I gave them the thing they had come to steal. But not the way I had in my first life. Celine reached for the card, eyes already shining with triumph. I pulled it back a centimeter. Bathroom, I said softly. People are watching. My father exhaled. Vera nodded too quickly. Celine followed me toward the corridor like a girl being led to a crown. Inside the women's bathroom, the same fluorescent lights buzzed above the sinks. The same cracked tile ran along the wall. The same poster warned candidates that impersonation would lead to permanent disqualification and criminal referral. In my first life, I had looked at that poster and felt sick. This time, I read it like a promise. Vera locked the door behind us. Celine turned to the mirror. Give me your blazer. The photo has you in dark clothes. She was efficient now that no strangers could hear her crying. I took off my blazer and handed it over. In the pocket was a pen with a tiny silver clip. It looked like the cheap black ballpoint sold in the lobby. It was not. I had bought the same model the night before in my second life, after waking at 3:12 a.m. in my student apartment, screaming into my pillow until I realized my hands had no prison callus scars. I had spent the next 5 hours preparing. Not revenge in the cinematic sense.
No poison. No fourit confession.
No melodramatic letter slipped under a door. Revenge, in law, is boring until it detonates. It is timestamps, receipts, chain of custody, independent witnesses, a recording made where consent laws allow it, a small ultraviolet evidence powder used by exam security vendors, sold legally as training dust, a pen wiped clean except for that dust on the grip, a second pen in my shoe, a phone call to the anonymous exam integrity hotline from a public payphone at dawn, reporting that candidate 40719 might be impersonated by a woman named Celine Ward and that verification should include UV inspection of handled materials. The old Mara had believed truth simply needed to exist. The dead Mara knew truth needed a filing system. Celine shrugged into my blazer. You're being weirdly calm.
I'm tired.
You're not going to run to the examiners? I looked at her reflection. Would they believe me? She smiled before she could stop herself. There she was. The real girl beneath the cream cardigan. Probably not. Vera clicked her tongue. Don't be cruel, Celine. Mara is doing a generous thing. My father stood outside, knocking once. Hurry up. I handed Celine my exam card. Then I gave her the pen. You'll need this, I said. She took it. The silver clip flashed under the fluorescent light. Her fingers closed around the dust. That was the first thing she touched. The second was my admission card. The third was the bathroom door handle. Then the envelope began to open around her, and she did not even hear the paper tearing. I did not watch Celine enter Hall C from the bathroom doorway. That would have been too obvious. I walked out first, shoulders curved inward, eyes lowered, wearing only my white blouse as if I had been stripped of courage along with my blazer. My father waited near the vending machines. Well, he asked. She's going in. His face loosened with relief, not guilt. Relief. As if the world had corrected itself.
Good girl, he said.
2 words. In my first life, Those words had kept me obedient for years. They had been fed to me after every sacrifice. The bedroom I gave Celine, the internship interview I missed to drive Vera to a spa appointment, the scholarship money my father borrowed and never repaid. Good girl. The cheapest leash in the world. This time, they landed like coins dropped into an empty well. Vera emerged after Celine, dabbing her eyes. We should go before you change your mind. I'm not changing my mind, I said. That was true. I followed them down the corridor, but when they turned toward the exit, I stopped at the registration desk. My father noticed immediately. Mara. A young invigilator looked up from her laptop. Her badge read Priya S. She had kind eyes and the exhausted posture of someone who had already been asked 27 questions about permitted snacks. Yes, she said. I opened my mouth. In my first life, this was where fear had crushed me silent. I had imagined my father's anger, Vera's tears, Celine's ruined face, the scandal, the shame. I had imagined being blamed for making trouble. Now I imagined the courthouse stairwell, rainwater creeping under the door. My fingers numb around papers no one would read. My name is Mara Vale, I said. Candidate 40719. I need to report a possible impersonation. My father's hand clamped around my arm. Don't, he whispered. Priya's expression changed.
Not shocked.
Alert.
Trained.
Sir, please remove your hand from the candidate. He smiled tightly. Family matter.
No, sir.
Examination integrity matter. The words rang cleaner than church bells. I gently twisted free. Vera's face had gone paper white. Priya reached for a radio. Supervisor to registration, please. Possible candidate identity breach. My father leaned close. You will destroy her. I looked up at him. Really looked. At the man who had watched my life burn once and warmed his hands over the flames because Celine's success made better dinner conversation. No, I said. I'm letting her take the seat. His eyes flickered. Then why report? Because I finally learned the difference between permission and proof. The supervisor arrived before he could answer. A tall woman in a navy suit, silver hair cut sharply at her chin, badge reading Casper, chief examiner. In my first life, I had seen her only from a distance, reading instructions at the front of Hall C. Later, during my disciplinary hearing, she had testified that the day's procedures had shown no irregularities because no irregularity had been reported at the time. This time, she had a report before the first booklet was opened. Priya summarized quickly. Candidate number.
Name.
Alleged impersonator. Family interference. I gave only facts. No drama. No accusations I could not prove. I said Celine Ward had entered with my admission card and my clothing. I said I was willing to provide identification, handwriting samples, and a formal statement. I said I had also called the hotline earlier because I feared coercion. My father flinched at the word coercion. Vera began to cry again. This is a misunderstanding. Mara is under stress. She changed her mind, and now she wants to punish her sister. Chief Examiner Casper looked at me. Did you voluntarily give your admission materials to another person? Yes. My father seized on it.
There.
She admits it. I gave them under family pressure. I continued. And I am reporting it before the examination begins. Casper's gaze did not soften, but it sharpened in my favor. Did the other individual know she was not permitted to use your materials? Yes. Can you substantiate that? I took out my phone. The bathroom conversation is recorded. This jurisdiction allows one-party consent recordings. I was part of the conversation. Vera's crying stopped for the second time. My father whispered, You little. Casper's head snapped toward him. Sir, you will not threaten a reporting candidate in my examination center. A security guard appeared. Then another. Behind the closed doors of Hall C, a bell chimed. The examination had begun. Celine was inside, sitting in my seat, touching the booklet, the attendance sheet, the scratch paper, maybe even the neighbor's pen if panic made her borrow one. Every minute she stayed there, the evidence multiplied. And for the first time in 2 lives, I did not try to save her from herself. They placed me in a small administrative room with a glass wall facing the registration area. I could see my father pacing outside and Vera making frantic calls, but I could not hear them. That was a mercy. In my first life, their voices had lived inside my skull long after I left home. This time, glass made them into a silent film. Chief Examiner Casper sat across from me with a recorder on the table. "This statement is being taken at 8:47 a.m., she said. "Candidate Mara Elise Vale has reported an impersonation involving candidate number 40719. Miss Vale, please describe events in your own words." My own words. For years, my family had edited my life by speaking over me. Mara is sensitive. Mara misunderstood. Mara agreed. Mara failed. Mara resented.
Mara litt.
Their sentences had wrapped around my throat until even I forgot what my voice sounded like, without apology. So I spoke slowly. I told her Celine had claimed her admission session was wrong. I told her my father said I could defer because Celine had more at stake. I told her we entered the bathroom, where Celine demanded my blazer and admission card. I told her I gave them over because I wanted the impersonation documented safely instead of hidden after the fact. I told her I understood my own conduct would be reviewed. Casper paused. "You understand you may face consequences for handing over exam materials."
Ido.
"Then why do it?" "Because if I had simply refused, Celine would have cried, my family would have punished me privately, and by evening the story would become Mara tried to sabotage her sister's exam day. Because if I reported before she entered, Celine might claim confusion and escape with a warning. Because law is not about what you know, it is about what you can prove in a room full of people paid to doubt you." But I could not say all of that. So I said, because she has been protected by plausible deniability her entire life. I wanted the act to be clear. Casper studied me for a long second. "That is a dangerous strategy." "Yes. Not one I recommend." "I know." A knock interrupted us. Priya entered with a tablet and a sealed evidence pouch. She looked pale now. "Chief Examiner," she said, "the hall proctors completed a quiet identity check at C18. The seated candidate does not match the ID photograph." When asked to state her full legal name, she said Mara Elise Vale. When asked date of birth, she gave Miss Vale's date of birth from the admission card. When asked to sign a confirmation slip, handwriting differed from the registration sample. She became distressed and requested to speak to her mother. Casper's mouth thinned. "Where is she?" "Secure room 2. We removed her materials. But there is an additional issue." Priya placed the evidence pouch on the table. Inside was an answer booklet with a bright orange seal. During UV inspection, fluorescent transfer appeared on her hands, the admission card, the pen, the attendance sheet, the answer booklet cover, the scratch packet, and 2 neighboring distribution stacks. There it was. The title of my second life, written in invisible dust.
Casper turned to me.
"Did you place a marking substance on examination materials?"
"Careful now."
One wrong sentence could turn victory into misconduct. I used commercially available UV training powder on my own pen because I feared my materials would be taken and needed a way to identify handled items. I did not place it on exam booklets, distribution stacks, or any property belonging to the board. Priya nodded. "The powder appears transferred by touch. Security vendor confirmed it is non-destructive, but protocol requires contaminated materials be voided and replaced if chain of custody is compromised." Casper closed her eyes for half a second. "Huh? Many candidates affected?" "Potentially 28 booklets in one stack, 12 scratch packets, attendance sheet C, and the identity confirmation slips handled during removal." My pulse jumped. 28. In my first life, Celine had stolen one seat. In this life, greed made her touch a whole row of futures. "Are their answers compromised?" I asked. Casper opened her eyes. "Not if we act now. We have backup materials. The candidates will be moved, issued fresh papers, and granted additional time. But every paper she touched becomes void. Every single one." She said it without drama, as an administrative fact. It still felt like thunder returning for me. Through the glass, I saw my father stop pacing as a security guard approached him.
Vera stood.
A door opened across the hall, and Celine stumbled out between two proctors, still wearing my blazer. Her hands glowed faintly under a handheld UV lamp. Blue-white ghosts on every fingertip. She looked through the glass and saw me. For a moment, she did not look frightened. She looked offended, as if the trap were not that she had stolen my identity, but that I had allowed her theft to become inconvenient. Then Chief Examiner Casper stood. "Miss Vale," she said, "you will remain available for further statement. Miss Ward will be referred to the Board of Law Examiners, the Character and Fitness Committee, and, depending on counsel, law enforcement." "And my exam?" I asked. The question came out smaller than I wanted. Casper paused at the door. "That depends on whether you are emotionally fit to sit today, and whether the board determines your report preserved integrity rather than undermined it." My stomach turned cold. In revenge stories, the heroine sets the trap and walks away to applause. In real life, even justified fire burns your own hands. Casper saw my face and added, not unkindly, "The law values clean hands, Miss Vale. Yours are complicated, but complicated is not the same as dirty." Then she left me alone with the glass, the silent family outside it, and the understanding that I had not escaped judgment. I had only changed who else would stand in the room when it came. They did not let me see Celine immediately. That was another small mercy. Instead, I sat with a paper cup of water and watched Hall C undergo surgery. Candidates were lifted from their seats in quiet sections. Proctors collected booklets with gloved hands. Fresh packets appeared from sealed boxes. The clock stopped, then restarted. 1,000 people grumbled, but no one knew the full reason. That was how institutions survived scandal. First isolate, then sanitize, then call it procedure. At 9:22, Priya came back. "Chief Examiner wants to know whether you still wish to sit the exam," she said. I almost laughed.
Wish.
As if the bar exam were a birthday dinner. "Yes." Priya looked at my bare arms. "You'll need your blazer back, or we can find you a plain cardigan. The room is cold." "My blazer is evidence." "It is." "Then I'll take the cardigan." A corner of her mouth lifted. "Good answer." She brought me a gray cardigan from Lost Property and escorted me through a side hallway to a smaller overflow room. 6 candidates sat there already, people with accommodations or late technical issues. None of them looked at me for long. They were too busy trying not to drown in their own outlines. My new seat was 07, not C18. Not the seat I had died mourning. A different table, a different room, a different life. Priya placed a fresh booklet in front of me. "You'll receive the full allotted time. Your identity has been personally verified by the chief examiner. Do not discuss the incident. Do not leave without escort. Do you understand?" "Yes." Then she leaned closer, voice low enough that only I could hear. "For what it is worth, my cousin had a family like yours. She never got proof. You did." I looked up. Her professional face returned at once. "Begin when instructed." The first essay question was on fiduciary duty. I stared at the words until they blurred. A fiduciary must not profit from a position of trust. A fiduciary must avoid conflicts. A fiduciary must account for unauthorized gains. The law had jokes, apparently. It had dragged me back from death and placed betrayal on the first page like a dare. My hand shook. For 1 minute, maybe 2, I was not in overflow room O. I was 31 again, coughing rainwater from courthouse air, reading rejection letters, hearing Celine say, "Some people just aren't meant to practice law." Then I pressed my palm flat on the desk.
No fluorescent powder. No stolen pen.
No borrowed name. Just my hand. My paper. My seat. I wrote. Not beautifully at first. The first paragraph was stiff. The second found rhythm. By the third, the law came back like a language I had once spoken in childhood and forgotten only because someone kept interrupting.
Duty. Breach. Causation.
Remedy. Clean hands. Equitable accounting. Unjust enrichment. I wrote as if every sentence were a brick, and every brick was being laid across the door of the room where my first life had been buried. At the first break, I did not leave the room. Priya brought a sealed granola bar from my clear plastic bag. I ate half of it and drank more water. My phone remained locked in an evidence envelope, but through the wall I could hear raised voices from the administrative corridor. Vera, probably. She had a way of crying that made other people feel accused. The second essay was criminal procedure. Searches.
Statements.
Identity. Chain of custody. I almost smiled. By afternoon, exhaustion hollowed me out, but the hollow felt clean. There were no family whispers.
No guilt.
No Celine sitting in my place. When the final multiple-choice section ended, I set down my pen and realized I had finished 10 minutes early. In my first life, I had waited across the street while someone else built a career on my silence. In this life, I walked out under escort with ink on my fingers and my name on every page. Chief Examiner Casper met me at the door. You completed the exam? Yes. Good. It was not praise. It was better. It was acknowledgement. She handed me a receipt for my submitted materials and a notice requiring me to attend a preliminary integrity review the following morning.
My stomach sank again. Casper saw it.
You are not being charged with misconduct at this stage, but the board must determine whether today's events affect your candidacy. What about Celine? She is no longer a candidate. The sentence was quiet, absolute. And the papers? Voided, replaced where possible, secured where relevant. Her own responses will not be scored. I nodded. Behind Casper, through the open administrative door, I saw Celine sitting at a table with Vera beside her. My blazer lay folded in a clear plastic bag. My father stood near the wall, speaking to a man in a charcoal suit I recognized with a jolt. Gareth Lowe, senior partner at Halden, Price and Lowe. Celine's future mentor in my first life. The man who had smiled at me over a disciplinary table and said, Miss Vale, the profession cannot function if we indulge personal vendettas. What was he doing here already? Then Gareth turned, and his eyes met mine. Not surprised. Expectant. A new memory clicked into place, one I had overlooked because my first life had been too chaotic to examine the edges. Celine had not stolen my seat alone. She had been recruited. Gareth walked toward me with the smooth confidence of a man who built in 6-minute increments and ruined lives before lunch. Mara, he said warmly. Difficult day. Chief Examiner Casper stepped slightly between us. Mr. Lowe, this candidate is not to be approached outside council or board procedure. His smile did not move. Of course. I'm here as a family friend. I almost laughed again. Family friend. In law, labels were costumes. Advisor. Mentor. Concerned adult. Family friend. The question was always who benefited when the costume worked. Gareth lowered his voice. I hope you understand the seriousness of making accusations under stress. Young careers can survive mistakes. They rarely survive malice. There it was, the velvet knife. In my first life, Gareth had seemed enormous because he stood at the gate of every future I wanted. Now I saw the trick. Men like him did not guard gates. They built fences around stolen land and charged admission. I gave a recorded statement. I said, you should request it through proper channels. His eyes cooled. Casper said, this conversation is over. But as Gareth turned away, he murmured, just loud enough for me. Careful, Miss Vale. Examiners void papers. Firms void people. My first life flinched. My second life smiled. Because finally, he had touched the edge of the evidence too. The preliminary integrity review was held the next morning in a conference room that smelled of lemon polish and old carpet. 3 board members sat on one side of the table. Chief Examiner Casper sat at the end. A digital recorder glowed red between water pitchers. I came alone. That was not bravery. It was poverty. Lawyers cost money. I did not have yet. But I wore a plain navy dress, tied my hair back, and brought a folder with copies of my ID, my hotline call timestamp, the recording transcript, and a written statement organized by headings. If fear had to attend, it could at least come tabbed. Celine did not come alone. She entered 10 minutes late with Vera, my father, Gareth Lowe, and a criminal defense attorney whose shoes cost more than my monthly rent. Celine wore no cream cardigan today. She wore black, as if auditioning for the role of widow of her own consequences. Her eyes were swollen, but I could not tell whether from crying or calculation. She did not look at me until she sat down. When she did, her expression said, "Fix this." Even now, even after UV powder, false statements, voided papers, security reports, and my recorded voice, she still believed my job was to soften the floor beneath her fall. A board member introduced herself as Director Havel. This proceeding concerns events at yesterday's administration of the bar licensing examination, including alleged impersonation, unauthorized use of candidate materials, and potential contamination of examination documents. This is not a criminal proceeding, but referrals may result. Gareth raised a hand with practiced humility. Before we begin, I want to note Miss Ward is under severe emotional distress. There was confusion regarding scheduling. The family dynamic is complex. We ask the board to avoid premature conclusions that could ruin a promising young woman's life. Promising. Not honest. Not qualified. Promising. Director Havel looked at him over reading glasses. Your relationship to Miss Ward? Mentor and prospective employer. There was on the record. And to Miss Vale? His smile flickered. No formal relationship. I wrote that down, though I did not need to. Some sentences are worth preserving because later they become doors. The board played my bathroom recording first. My own voice sounded strange through the speaker. Small, tired, controlled. Celine's voice sounded worse. Not because she shouted, but because she didn't. She was casual, businesslike. Give me your blazer. The photo has you in dark clothes. You're not going to run to the examiners? Would they believe me? Probably not. In the silence after the recording stopped, Vera began to cry. Director Havel said, "Mrs. Vale, if you cannot remain quiet, you may wait outside." Vera swallowed the sob like medicine. Celine's attorney leaned forward. The recording captures an ambiguous exchange between sisters under stress. It does not prove Miss Ward intended permanent deception. She may have believed Miss Vale consented to a temporary seating accommodation between family members. Chief Examiner Casper's expression did not change. Candidates cannot transfer seats. Of course, the attorney said, but laypersons panic. They are law graduates sitting for licensure. That landed beautifully. The attorney shifted. Miss Ward was not herself. Director Havel tapped a page. According to the Proctor report, when asked to state her name, she said Mara Elise Vale. When asked for date of birth, she provided Miss Vale's date of birth. When asked whether she was the person pictured on the admission card, she said yes. At what point was she not herself? Celine stared at the table. Gareth intervened. May we discuss Miss Vale's conduct? She admits she intentionally handed over materials. She admits she planted a tracing substance on a pen. This looks less like a report and more like entrapment. There it was. The word he had been waiting to use. Entrapment. I had expected it. I had written it as heading 4 in my folder. Director Havel turned to me. Miss Vale, response? My hands were cold, but my voice held. Entrapment requires inducement by law enforcement or an agent of the state in many legal contexts. I am neither. I did not persuade Miss Ward to impersonate me. She and my family approached me, requested my seat, and took steps to carry out the impersonation before any examiner intervened. The UV powder did not create the misconduct. It marked contact after Miss Ward chose to proceed. The room went very still. Chief Examiner Casper looked down at her notes, but I saw the corner of her mouth move. Gareth's eyes sharpened. A clever answer. A correct one, I said. My father slammed his palm on the table. Enough. Mara, stop performing. Tell them you overreacted. Director Havel looked at him. Mr. Vale, you will control yourself. He pointed at me, the mask finally cracking. She has always been jealous.
Celine is the one people like.
Celine knows how to work with others. Mara hoards knowledge and calls it virtue. She set this up because she couldn't stand that her sister might do better. There it was, the family constitution spoken aloud. Celine is liked, so Celine deserves. Mara works, so Mara can spare. I could have shouted. I could have listed every stolen thing. Instead, I open my folder. Director Havel, may I submit a document? What is it? A copy of Miss Ward's clerkship offer, publicly filed as an exhibit in a separate employment announcement packet. It includes a deferral clause allowing her to postpone start dates for licensing issues. This contradicts yesterday's claim that she would lose her position if she did not sit in the morning session. Celine's head snapped up. Gareth went perfectly still. That was when I knew the clause mattered to him too. Director Havel accepted the copy. Where did you obtain this? From the firm's recruitment website Cash last night. It was publicly accessible. Gareth's jaw moved once. A small victory, but a clean one. Director Havel read silently, then passed it to Casper. Mr. Lowe, your firm provided Miss Ward's clerkship offer? Yes. Was it at risk if she did not sit yesterday's morning session? He paused half a second too long.
No.
Celine whispered. Gareth. He did not look at her. That was the sound of patronage withdrawing its hand. The hearing lasted 3 hours. By the end, my throat ached from answering questions, but I had not contradicted myself once. Celine contradicted herself 7 times. First, she said she thought family seat sharing was permitted. Then she said she panicked. Then she said I pressured her to go in so I could accuse her. Then she said she never touched distribution stacks. Then Priya's proctor map showed she had lifted the top stack while searching for her booklet because she could not find C18 fast enough. Then she cried. Then she stopped crying when Director Havel asked whether she had received assistance memorizing my date of birth. My father claimed he only wanted peace. Vera claimed she thought the board would understand sisters helping sisters. Gareth claimed he had no knowledge of any plan before arriving at the center after Celine called him. That last claim sat in the room like a glass vase on the edge of a shelf. I did not push it. Not yet. At the end, Director Havel announced interim decisions. Celine Ward was suspended from all current and future examinations pending full character and fitness investigation. Her attempted sitting would be voided. All materials she touched would remain void and preserved as evidence. My own examination would be provisionally scored, subject to review, because I had reported before completion and had not compromised answer content. My use of UV powder would be referred for policy review, but not treated as cheating because it was confined to my personal pen and disclosed immediately. I breathed for what felt like the first time since waking up reborn. Then Havel looked at me over her glasses. Miss Vale, the board does not endorse private evidence traps. But the profession also cannot ignore coercion, impersonation, and calculated deception. You will be contacted regarding witness cooperation. Yes, Director. Celine made a small broken sound. I turned to spite myself. Her face was wet. For once, not beautifully. Her crying had gone ugly around the edges. Mara, she whispered, please. Say you forgive me. The room waited. My father's eyes ordered. Vera's eyes begged. Gareth's eyes calculated. Celine's eyes demanded the old ending. Mara absorbs the damage. Celine survives polished. In my first life, forgiveness had been extracted from me like tax. This time, I gave the only answer the law had taught me was safe. I declined to make a statement on that. And I walked out before anyone could translate my silence into mercy. For 3 weeks, the world became paperwork. People think revenge is a single blow. It is not. It is the mail after the blow. Certified letters, deadlines, interviews, corrections to transcripts, statements reviewed by people who were not there but held power over what being there meant. My phone filled with unknown numbers. My email became a battlefield of formal requests and fake concern. My father sent the first message that night. You went too far.
Then.
Call me.
Then.
Your sister is not eating.
Then.
Do you understand what you have done to this family? I typed several replies and deleted all of them. Finally, I wrote only, "Please communicate through email regarding any necessary logistical matter. Do not contact me about the investigation." He responded, "You sound like a stranger." I stared at that for a long time. Then I whispered to my empty apartment, "Good." My apartment in this life still had the cracked window latch and the cheap bookshelf leaning left. The radiator hissed like an angry cat. My law outlines were stacked on the floor because I had never been able to afford a real desk. But after the exam, the place felt less like a waiting room and more like a border crossing. Behind me, a country where love meant surrender. Ahead, unknown terrain, dangerous but mine. I changed the lock 2 days after the hearing. My father noticed on day 4. He came at 9:15 p.m., pounding so hard the neighbor's dog started barking. I stood barefoot in the hallway, looking through the peephole at the man who had once taught me to ride a bike by letting go without warning and blaming me when I fell. "Mara," he said, "open the door." I did not. "I know you're in there." I stayed silent. His voice dropped. "You think the board will protect you? You think those people care about you? Family is all you have." That used to work because it was nearly true. I had built no other safety net. Isolation had made my family's cruelty feel like weather, unpleasant, unavoidable, survivable if I dressed correctly. But rebirth had given me one gift beyond memory. It had given me proof that surviving them was not the same as living. My phone buzzed. A text from Priya, who had given me her number after my second witness interview under the professional excuse of scheduling. "Everything okay? Your father is outside? I can call building security if needed." My throat tightened. I typed, "Yes, please." 2 minutes later, a uniformed guard appeared at the end of the hall. My father's face changed instantly. Concerned parent replaced angry owner. "My daughter is unwell," he told the guard. From behind the door, I said clearly, "I am fine." "He is not invited." The guard asked him to leave. My father looked into the peephole as if he could see my eye on the other side. "This is Gareth's influence, isn't it?" he said. I almost opened the door then. Not from fear. From curiosity. Gareth's influence? What did my father think Gareth was to me? The guard repeated the request. My father left, but the sentence remained behind, tapping at the floorboards. The next morning, I searched my first life memories carefully, like digging through ash for metal. Gareth had appeared after the scandal, yes. He had represented the firm's interests, yes. He had mentored Celine, yes. But there had been a dinner before the exam, 2 weeks before. My father had insisted I attend. Gareth had been there. He had asked me about my grades, my mock exam scores, my writing style. Celine had joked that I was a machine when it came to essays. Gareth had smiled and said, "Some machines print money if pointed correctly." At the time, I thought it was a compliment. Now I knew better. I requested my law school records, then my mock bar essays, then access logs for the online prep platform we used. It took days. Most people refused at first, but I had learned the magic words: ongoing integrity investigation, potential identity misuse, preservation request. Suddenly people found forms. The first strange result came from the prep platform. My account had been accessed from 3 IP addresses I recognized: my apartment, the law library, and my father's house. A 4th belonged to Halden, Price and Lowe. Not proof of a crime.
Not yet.
But a thread. I sent it to the board investigator without commentary. Then I made coffee and sat at my crooked table until sunrise, remembering Gareth's face when the deferral clause came out. A man does not panic because a girl lies about needing an exam seat. A man panics when the lie points back to a system. The next twist arrived disguised as kindness. An email from Halden, Price, and Lowe appeared with the subject line, "Informal resolution opportunity. Dear Miss Vale, in light of recent events, our firm recognizes that misunderstandings around examination administration may have caused distress. We would like to invite you to a confidential meeting to discuss potential opportunities, support, and a path forward that protects all young professionals involved." It was signed by Gareth. I read it 3 times, then forwarded it to the board investigator. Then, because the dead version of me had learned caution the expensive way, I called a legal aid clinic. The lawyer who called back was named Tamsin Okafor. She had a dry voice, a laugh like a match striking, and no patience for polite predators. "Let me guess," she said after I summarized. "They want you in a room without counsel, so they can offer something shiny in exchange for silence." "Probably. Do you want the shiny thing?" I looked around my apartment. The cracked window, the leaning shelf, the unpaid electricity bill clipped to the fridge. "Yes," I said, "but I want the truth more." "Good. Then you'll bring me." "I can't afford." I said bring me, not buy me. "I run the clinic's professional licensing project. Your fact pattern is a law professor's fever dream." For the first time in days, I laughed. The meeting took place on the 32nd floor of Gareth's firm, in a conference room with glass walls and a view of the courthouse where I had died in another life. I did not tell Tamsin that part. Even lawyers have limits. Gareth was waiting with 2 partners and a tray of pastries no one touched. "Mara," he said, as if we were old friends, "I'm pleased you came." Tamsin placed her notebook on the table. "Miss Vale is represented for purposes of this conversation." His smile tightened. "Of course." The offer came wrapped in concern. A paralegal position, exam fee reimbursement, a letter acknowledging family pressure without admitting firm involvement, assistance preparing for future interviews. In exchange, I would agree not to pursue claims or make public statements regarding Halden, Price and Lowe, its employees, or recruitment practices connected to Celine Ward. Tamsin let them finish. Then she said, "Interesting. Why would Miss Vale have claims against your firm?" Silence. One partner blinked. Gareth leaned back. "We are trying to prevent unnecessary escalation." "Escalation of what?" "Rumor." "What rumor?" He looked at me. "Miss Vale appears to believe my firm had something to do with her sister's poor decision." Tamsin tapped her pen. "Did it?" "Absolutely not." "Then why does the proposed release cover recruitment practices connected to Miss Ward?" The second partner shifted in his chair. Gareth's eyes went flat. "Standard language." Tamsin smiled. "Nothing in this fact pattern is standard." I opened my folder and slid one page across the table. Not the IP log itself, just a preservation letter requesting that the firm retain access records, recruitment communications, messages between Gareth and Celine, and any documents concerning candidate performance data. Gareth did not touch it. That was the first smart thing I had seen him do. "Careful," he said softly. Tamsin's smile vanished.
No.
"You be careful." My client reported impersonation before exam materials were scored. Your prospective hire was caught using her identity. Your server appears in prep platform access logs. And you invited an unrepresented candidate to sign a confidentiality agreement broad enough to cover the moon. So from this point forward, every communication goes through me. For a second, I thought Gareth would explode. Instead, he looked at me with something like curiosity. "You really came back different," he murmured. My blood went cold. Tamsin frowned. "Excuse me?" Gareth recovered instantly. "From yesterday. From the hearing. Different demeanor." But I had heard it. "You really came back different." Not became. Came back. I left the firm with my heart hammering so loudly I barely heard Tamsin talking about next steps. On the sidewalk, rain began to fall, light and cold. The courthouse across the street blurred behind it. "Mara," Tamsin said. "Did that last comment mean something?" I could have lied. Instead, I gave the smallest truth possible. "I think Gareth knows more than he should." She studied me. "Then we assume he is dangerous." I already did.
No, she said.
You assumed he was corrupt. Dangerous is different. Corrupt protects benefits. Dangerous protects secrets. That night, Celine called from an unknown number. I almost did not answer. Then I remembered Gareth's sentence and pressed accept. For 3 seconds, there was only breathing. Then, "Mar?" She sounded small. Not sweet small. Trapped small. "What do you want?" "I need to see you."
No, please.
Gareth said if I cooperate with the board, he'll make sure I'm charged. He said he has emails that make it look like I planned everything alone. I sat up. Didn't you? Celine made a sound between a sob and a laugh. I wanted your score. Okay? I wanted it. I hated that you could do things so easily. But Gareth told Dad it was harmless. He said the board barely checks if the candidate has the right paperwork. He said firms do quiet substitutions overseas all the time for language exams and nobody cares if the result benefits the right people. My hand tightened around the phone. Why would Gareth care whether you passed? Because he needed me licensed before the merger. His niece failed character and fitness. He promised a client a junior associate with top exam numbers and family discretion. I don't know, Mara. He talked like people were pieces. Dad listened because Gareth said he could get me into the firm and maybe get you contract work later. Contract work later. My future had been a consolation prize in a fraud scheme. Do you have proof? I asked. Celine hesitated. There was the answer. What do you have? Messages. Voice notes. But if I give them, I'm done. You were done when you said my name to a proctor. She began to cry. How can you be so cold? The old guilt rose by reflex, then died from lack of food. I'm not cold, I said. I'm finally facing the right direction. If I go down, Dad and Mom will never forgive me. They helped you. They helped us.
No, Selene.
They used me and taught you it was love. Silence. For once, she had no immediate answer. I gave her Tamsin's number. Send everything to my lawyer. Not to me. If you are lying, stop now. If you are telling the truth, preserve the original messages and do not warn Gareth. Mara? What? I didn't think it would ruin you last time. Last time. The words slipped out so softly, I almost missed them. My apartment seemed to tilt. What did you say? I said I didn't think it would ruin you this time, Celine rushed.
No.
You said last time. Her breathing stopped. Celine. The call ended. I sat in the dark with the dead phone in my hand, understanding, finally, that rebirth had not returned only me. The story was bigger than revenge now, and more dangerous than justice. Tamsin believed me about many things, but reincarnation was not one of them. I did not blame her. Lawyers like evidence. Death reversing itself rarely leaves a receipt. So when I told her Celine had implied knowledge of a previous timeline, Tamsin said, could be guilt language, could be manipulation, could be you misheard under stress. All possible. What do you believe? I believe Celine remembers enough to be afraid. Tamsin looked at me over her coffee. We had met at a diner 2 blocks from the courthouse because her office had flooded and my apartment did not have chairs stable enough for legal strategy. Then our approach remains the same, she said. Get documents. Avoid private meetings. Let scared people create records. Scared people create records. That became the motto of the next month. Celine sent screenshots first. Tamsin rejected them and demanded originals. Celine sent exported message files. Gareth had indeed coached her, not explicitly enough to write impersonate your sister, but close enough to smell smoke. Messages about Mara's stronger metrics, temporary identity alignment, family consent narrative, and no written admissions. Voice notes were worse. Gareth's voice, silky and amused, saying, "The profession rewards outcomes, Celine. Procedure is a fence for people without sponsors." My father's messages were blunt. Mara owes this family. She never uses opportunities correctly. If Celine gets the score, everyone benefits. Everyone. That word did not include me, but it wore my skin. The board expanded the investigation. Then the firm announced Gareth was taking a leave of absence for personal reasons. Then legal blogs picked up rumors of a bar exam impersonation scandal without names. Then my law school dean requested a meeting. In my first life, that dean had signed the letter withdrawing my alumni mentor access. This time, she offered tea. "I owe you an apology," Dean Armand said. That sentence almost broke me more than any insult. For what? I asked carefully. Your mock exam essays were flagged last semester for unusual external downloads. We dismissed it as a platform glitch because the access came from a major firm server during recruitment season. We should have notified you. I folded my hands under the table so she would not see them shake. Who downloaded them? We are still investigating. Was Gareth Lowe involved? Her silence answered before her words did. The firm has not fully cooperated. I looked at the framed class photos on her wall. Rows of smiling graduates. Futures lined up in black robes. In my first life, I had thought institutions were mountains. Immovable, cold, impossible to accuse. Now I saw they were buildings full of people who sometimes ignored smoke because alarms were inconvenient. Dean Armand slid an envelope across the desk. Pending the board's outcome, the school would like to provide independent counsel for you regarding any academic records issue. Why? Because you were our student and because we failed to protect your work. There are apologies that ask you to comfort the speaker. This was not one. This one sat on the desk like a tool. I took the envelope. Thank you. Outside the dean's office, I found Celine waiting by the stairwell. For one wild second, memory folded over itself. Courthouse stairs, rain. My last breath. I stepped back so quickly my shoulder hit the wall. Celine noticed. Her face changed. You remember the stairs, she whispered. The hallway emptied around us, or maybe my hearing narrowed until only she existed. So do you, I said. She hugged herself. No cream cardigan today. No black morning dress. Just jeans, a sweater, and a girl who looked younger than the damage she had done. I didn't at first, she said. Only dreams. You falling. Dad saying not to answer unknown calls. Gareth telling me scandals fade if no one feeds them. Then when you smiled in the bathroom, I knew. Not everything, but enough. My mouth went dry. What happened after I died? Celine looked down. Don't, I said. You owe me the truth. She flinched. Your death made people ask questions. Not because they cared at first. Because someone leaked your old disciplinary file and it looked cruel after the obituary. A journalist found inconsistencies. The board reopened the case. Gareth blamed me. Dad blamed Mom. Mom blamed you. I kept my license for a while, then lost it when the handwriting expert report came out. I was 32 when I remembered enough to realize you had been right from the beginning. The hallway lights hummed. Did you regret it? I asked. She cried then, but quietly. No performance. Just water leaking from a cracked cup. Yes. The word did not heal anything. It mattered anyway. Did you tell the truth? I was going to. Gareth's people offered settlement money. Dad said prison would kill Mom. I waited. Then I got sick. How convenient. Her face twisted. I deserved that. You deserved worse. I know. We stood there, two women haunted by the same future, for different reasons. Finally, Celine held out a small drive. This has the original voice notes, emails, and something else. A memo Gareth wrote about you. About me? He called you the better candidate. He wanted your score attached to someone easier to control. I did not take the drive immediately. What do you want in exchange? Her hand shook. Nothing. I don't believe you. I want you to tell Tamsin I cooperated before subpoena. There it was. Not nothing, but not everything. I'll tell the truth, I said. Celine gave a broken laugh. That's all you do now, isn't it?
No.
That's all I should have done then. I took the drive with a tissue wrapped around my fingers because chain of custody had become my love language. As she turned away, I said, Celine.
She stopped.
I don't forgive you. I know, but if you keep telling the truth, someday you might become someone who doesn't need my forgiveness to stop lying. Her shoulders folded inward. Then she walked down the stairs alone. The memo was worse than I expected. Gareth had written it 6 months before the exam, under the subject line candidate optimization in family referral contexts. He never used the word fraud. Men like Gareth preferred language that wore gloves. He wrote about reallocating high-performing metrics, leveraging intra-family consent, and ensuring outward-facing candidate presentation aligns with client expectations. Client expectations meant Celine's face, Celine's charm, Celine's obedience. High-performing metrics meant my work. There was a table comparing us. Mara Vale, top 2% analytical writing, strong ethics score, low social pliability, limited family leverage due to financial independence efforts. Celine Ward, moderate analytical score, high presentation value, strong family alignment, responsive to mentor direction. I read that line until the words lost meaning. Low social pliability. In my first life, they had called me difficult. In Gareth's memo, difficult meant not yet owned. Tamsin read the memo once, then again, then said a word I had never heard her use in front of clients. Is it enough? I asked. It is enough to make many people wish they had chosen different careers. The investigation became formal. Subpoenas followed. Gareth's leave of absence became termination. Halden, Price, and Lowe issued a statement expressing shock, which is what powerful institutions say when caught near mirrors. My father stopped texting me and started texting Tamsin, which went poorly for him. Vera sent one email with the subject line, "Your cruelty has consequences." Tamsin replied with a preservation notice. I framed that reply in my heart. Meanwhile, my exam results were delayed. Every morning, I woke with my chest tight and checked the portal. Pending, pending, pending. The word became a second heartbeat. It did not matter that bigger things were happening. It did not matter that Gareth was falling, Celine was suspended, and the board had begun reviewing prior recruitment irregularities. I still needed to know whether the pages I wrote in Overflow Room counted. Because justice without a future is only a cleaner form of grief. On the 43rd day, at 6:02 a.m., the portal changed. Pass. For several seconds, I did nothing. Then I refreshed the page. Pass. I downloaded the PDF. Pass. I printed it at the corner shop because I did not own a printer. The clerk, a teenager with headphones around his neck, handed me the warm page without looking. I carried it home under my jacket like a newborn animal. In my apartment, I placed it on the crooked table.
Mara Elise Vale. Passed.
Not Celine. Not candidate optimization. Not family alignment.
Me.
I thought I would scream. Instead, I sat on the floor and cried so hard my ribs hurt. Not pretty tears. Not cinematic tears. Grief came first, because the woman who died on the courthouse stairs had never seen this page. Then rage, because she should have. Then something quieter, almost frightening. Relief. My phone rang. Tamsin. Well, she demanded. I passed. She shouted so loudly, I had to hold the phone away. Priya sent 12 exclamation points and a cake emoji. Dean Armand emailed congratulations and copied the licensing support office. Even my neighbor, who knew only that law drama had happened, knocked and handed me a muffin. My father found out by afternoon. His email was short. Congratulations. Your mother would have been proud. We should talk. My mother. Not Vera. My mother, dead since I was 14, invoked like a skeleton key whenever my father found a locked door. I replied, "Do not use my mother to request access to me. We have nothing to discuss outside the investigation." His response came 6 minutes later. "You have become hard." I looked at my past letter. No, I thought. I had become admitted to myself. The final board hearing took place in winter. By then, the scandal had a name in legal media, the candidate substitution affair. Names were still partially redacted, but everyone in the licensing world knew enough to whisper. Halden, Price, and Lowe lost 2 major clients. Gareth was under criminal investigation for conspiracy, identity fraud, and obstruction. My father faced referral for aiding attempted impersonation. Vera claimed medical fragility and produced 3 doctor's notes. Celine cooperated and signed a statement admitting she knowingly used my identity. I attended as a witness. This time, I had counsel, a pass result, and a suit bought on sale but tailored by a woman who told me, "Stand like the jacket owes you money." Celine sat across the room. She looked thinner.
No makeup.
Hair tied back. Her attorney whispered to her, but she kept her eyes on the table. Gareth entered last. He still wore power well. Some men can stand in ruins and make ash look like decoration. But there were cracks now. A gray tint under his skin. A tightness around his eyes. The smile remained, but it had become a habit instead of a weapon. When I took the witness chair, he watched me with the faintest curl of amusement. As if to say, you are still here because I permit the game. Director Hovell began with basic questions.
Name.
Exam candidate number. Events of the day. Bathroom exchange. Reporting. UV powder. Chain of custody. I answered steadily. Gareth's attorney rose for cross-examination. Miss Vale, you admit you intentionally allowed your sister to enter the exam under your name. I intentionally allowed her to take the physical card after she requested it, then immediately reported the impersonation before exam completion. That was not my question. It is the accurate answer. A few pens moved. You wanted her caught. Yes. You wanted her humiliated. I wanted the impersonation documented. Come now. You were angry. Yes. So, this was revenge. The room leaned toward the word. I thought of the courthouse stairs, the dry cleaner apartment, the years of being told that anger disqualified truth. Then I said, anger can explain why a person preserves evidence. It does not make the evidence false. Director Hovell wrote something down. Gareth's attorney changed direction. You used a UV powder without board authorization. On my own pen. Knowing it could transfer. Knowing theft involves touch. A cough came from somewhere behind me. It might have been a laugh strangled into professionalism. The attorney's smile thinned. You are enjoying this? No, I said. I enjoyed writing my own exam. This is maintenance. That answer ended the useful part of his cross. Then Celine testified. She did not look at me when she described the plan. Gareth's suggestion. My father's pressure. Vera's emotional staging. Her own jealousy. The way she had memorized my birth date and practiced my signature. The way she believed, because everyone around her repeated it, that I would recover from losing one chance more easily than she would recover from never being exceptional. When asked why she cooperated, she finally looked up. Because Mara died once for this, she said. The room froze. Her attorney closed his eyes. Director Hovell said carefully, Miss Ward, please clarify. Celine swallowed. I mean metaphorically. She lost her life before, because of what I did. Her career. Her name. I understood that too late. Gareth watched her with murder in his stillness. But the damage was done. Not legal damage, maybe. Something older. She had spoken the ghost into the room. Then came the memo. Gareth's attorney objected to context, foundation, prejudice, relevance, and possibly gravity itself. The board admitted it for limited purposes. Director Hovell read portions aloud, including low social pliability and high presentation value. For the first time all day, Gareth lost color. He was not ashamed of the memo. I doubt Gareth had ever felt shame without professional coaching. He was horrified that his private language sounded monstrous when translated back into human stakes. That is the weakness of predators who hide behind euphemism. Eventually someone reads the dictionary out loud. The board recessed for 2 hours. I waited in the hallway with Tamsin. Celine sat at the far end with her attorney. My father and Vera avoided me entirely. Gareth stood near a window, looking down at the city as if searching for a smaller version he could still control. At one point he walked over. Tamsin stood immediately. He ignored her. Mara. No private conversation, Tamsin said. Then hear this publicly. His voice was low, but several people turned. You think winning a procedural battle makes you righteous. It makes you lucky. You came back with information no one else had. There it was again. Came back. This time, I did not flinch. Did you? I asked. His pupils tightened. Tamsin looked between us. Gareth smiled slowly. I don't need reincarnation to understand people repeat themselves. Neither do I. You will find the profession less grateful than you imagine. I'm not asking the profession to be grateful. What are you asking? I looked toward the hearing room doors. To be less purchasable. He laughed once. Child. In my first life, that word would have shrunk me. In this one, I saw what it was. A man standing at the edge of consequences, trying to make the witness feel young enough to doubt her eyes. The doors opened before he could say more. The board's decision was read in a room so quiet I could hear the recorder hum. Celine Ward, permanently barred from sitting for the licensing exam for 10 years, with any future application subject to full character and fitness review, referred to law enforcement, cooperation noted. My father, referred for investigation regarding aiding and abetting examination fraud, his written statement deemed not credible in multiple respects. Vera, referred for investigation regarding false statements and coercive conduct. Gareth Lowe, referred to the disciplinary authority, law enforcement, and the Attorney General's office for potential conspiracy, fraud, misuse of candidate data, and obstruction. The board also recommended review of all candidates recruited through a special referral program for 5 years. Halden, Price, and Lowe, required to produce records, fund independent review, and notify affected applicants. Every paper Celine touched remained voided, archived, and marked as compromised. My examination valid. My pass result certified. My character and fitness review approved, with commendation for timely reporting under coercive conditions. Commendation. I stared at the word in the printed decision until Tamsin touched my arm. Mara, she whispered, you're done.
Done.
Not healed. Not finished with every consequence, but done with the question of whether my name belonged to me. Across the room, Celine cried into her hands. Vera held her. My father stared at the table like it had betrayed him. Gareth stood perfectly still, then buttoned his suit jacket with ceremonial calm. As he passed me, he said, "Careers are long." I said, "So are records." He left without another word. Admission day was smaller than I imagined.
No orchestra.
No golden light. Just a courtroom, a list of names, a judge with reading glasses, and a group of exhausted new lawyers trying to look dignified while their families took blurry photos. I came with Tamsin and Priya. Dean Armand attended for the school. My family did not know the date because I had stopped donating information to people who spent it against me. When my name was called, I stood.
Mara Elise Valli.
My knees trembled. I walked forward anyway. The oath was not long, but every word weighed more than the exam. Support the Constitution. Conduct myself with integrity. Employ only truthful means. Uphold the honor of the profession. In my first life, those words had been used to keep me outside the door while liars drank champagne inside. This time, I spoke them aloud and did not feel naive. Integrity was not the belief that institutions were pure. Integrity was the refusal to become impure just because institutions were late. Afterward, Tamsin hugged me so hard my ribs protested. Priya cried and denied it. Dean Armand gave me a fountain pen with my initials engraved on the cap. "For documents you choose to sign," she said. I nearly cried again. Outside the courthouse, the sky was clear.
No storm.
No rain on stairs. I stood at the top step and looked down at the place where another version of me had fallen with emotion in her hand and no one coming. For a moment, I felt her beside me. Not as a ghost exactly. More like pressure in the air. A life that had ended so this one could turn. I whispered, "We did it." Tamsin did not ask who I meant. 6 months later, I began work at the Public Integrity Clinic. Not at a glass tower firm. Not beside people like Gareth. I had offers by then, surprisingly good ones. Scandal creates distance, but survival creates mythology, and some firms wanted to hire the woman who had exposed a licensing fraud ring because it made them look brave in newsletters. Tamsin advised me to choose the place that would still value me after the headlines faded. The clinic had peeling paint, overworked staff, and clients who arrived with paper bags full of documents they did not understand. It also had a rule painted on the intake room wall. "If it matters, write it down." On my first day, a young woman came in because her employer had taken credit for her certification hours and threatened to blacklist her if she complained. She sat across from me, twisting a tissue until it shredded. "No one will believe me," she said. I opened a fresh legal pad. Then we start building something they can't ignore. Her eyes filled. I recognized the look. The terrifying moment when someone offers not rescue, but method. After work, I found Celine waiting outside. She kept a careful distance. That was new. I'm not here to ask for anything, she said quickly. I shifted my bag on my shoulder. Then why are you here? To tell you Gareth pled guilty to 2 counts. I heard. And Dad took a deal. I heard that too. Vera had avoided charges by cooperating late and dramatically, which was very Vera. My father received probation, fines, and professional disgrace in his consulting circles. He wrote once from a court-mandated ethics program to say he hoped someday I understood parental fear. I did not reply. Celine looked at the clinic sign. This suits you. It does. I'm working at a bookstore, she said. Inventory. No customer recommendations yet. Apparently, I'm not trusted with persuasive speech. Despite myself, I almost smiled. She saw it and looked away fast, as if afraid to ask for more. I know I don't deserve to be in your life, she said. I'm not trying to be. My therapist said apologies aren't supposed to be invoices, so I'm practicing saying things without waiting for payment. That sounds like a good therapist. She scares me. Even better. Silence settled between us. Not comfortable, but not poisonous. Celine took a breath. I am sorry I took your seat. I am sorry I took your name. I am sorry that in another life, I let you carry the punishment until it killed you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say it where you were standing, not where I was cornered. The apology entered the air and stayed there, neither accepted nor rejected. I thought about telling her she was forgiven. It would have made the scene softer, cleaner. Viewers would like it. Families would understand it. But some wounds do not become moral lessons just because the person who made them learns to cry correctly. I hope you become better, I said. Celine nodded, tears slipping down her face. Me too. Then she left. I watched her go without following. That was the mercy I could offer both of us. A year after the exam, the Board of Law Examiners changed its procedures. Mandatory biometric check-in, randomized seat confirmation, real-time photo verification, chain of custody training for all proctors, a new rule requiring protected reporting channels for candidates experiencing family or employer coercion. The announcement did not mention me by name. I preferred it that way. Names can be stolen. Procedures protect strangers. Priya sent me the announcement with one line. Your fingerprints are all over this, metaphorically this time. I replied with a laughing emoji and then sat quietly for a while. My fingerprints. In my first life, my fingerprints had been used against me because I touched documents I did not understand were becoming traps. In this life, Celine's glowing fingerprints voided every paper she touched. Not because powder was magic, because the touch finally meant something in a system forced to look. That evening, I visited my mother's grave. I had avoided it for months. My father's email had made even grief feel contaminated. But the cemetery was peaceful, all winter grass and stone angels with weathered faces. I brushed leaves from my mother's name and placed my admission certificate beside the flowers for a minute. Your daughter is a lawyer, I said. The wind moved through the trees. I did not imagine she answered. I had outgrown the need to turn silence into approval. But I let myself remember her hands guiding mine over a school essay when I was 8. Facts first, Mara. Feelings after. Both matter, but facts can carry feelings farther. She had been right. I told her about the exam, the hearing, Tamsin, Priya, the clinic, even Celine. I told her I was still angry. I told her I was happy too, which felt like confessing a crime after years of practicing grief. When I left, the sun was setting behind the courthouse district, turning all the windows gold. I did not think of Gareth. I did not think of my father. I thought of Hall C, Seat C18, and a girl in my blazer reaching for a pen she believed was harmless. People ask, when they hear pieces of the story, whether I regret letting Celine take the seat instead of simply refusing. The answer is complicated. A cleaner person might have refused at the bathroom door, reported immediately, and walked into the exam untouched by strategy. A softer person might have forgiven under pressure and called it healing. A smarter person might never have spent one life trying to earn love from thieves. But I am the person who came back. I came back with rain in my lungs and law in my hands. I came back knowing that evil rarely announces itself with a knife. Sometimes it arrives as a crying sister, a disappointed father, a mentor with a view of the city, and a sentence like, "You can take it next time." So no, I do not regret making the evidence visible. I regret that evidence was necessary. I regret the 28 candidates whose morning was disrupted because Celine's ambition made her careless. I regret the old Mara who believed silence was the price of belonging. I regret every institution that waits for glowing fingerprints before believing a woman who says, "Someone is taking my name." But I do not regret the outcome, because the examiners voided every paper she touched. The board voided every lie Gareth polished. The investigation voided every excuse my father called love. And I, finally, voided the version of myself who thought survival meant staying useful to people committed to spending me. My name is Mara Elise Vale. I sat for the bar exam in Overflow Room O, Seat 7. I passed. I was admitted. And the next time someone sits across from me with shaking hands and a stolen future, I do not tell her to be patient. I do not tell her to be the bigger person. I do not tell her truth always wins, because truth does not win alone. I hand her a pen. I open a file. And I say, start at the beginning. Tell me everything they touched.